Hello, and thank you for attending my presentation today. My name is Gavin, I'm 11 years old, and I think too much. I love thinking. I think of all kinds of things, weird things, like how many donuts I have to eat to get enough dietary calories to equal the energy given off by the little boy bomb that destroyed Hiroshima. The answer is 64 million. I worked that out when I was 9. When I was supposed to be paying attention to my 4th grade teacher during math. Since the little boy bomb gave off about 16 teracalories of energy, you're probably thinking the answer is 64 billion donuts, given a modest 250 calories per donut, but a dietary calorie is really a kilocalorie, which is 1,000 actual calories. That means a donut has about 250,000 calories. Einstein showed that by giving up a little bit of matter, you release a huge amount of energy. The little boy bomb converted about 3/4 of a gram of mass into energy. That's only about 0.001% of the mass of the uranium used in the device. That means the Earth weighs 1/4 of a gram less than it did because of the bombing of Hiroshima, but I would weigh a lot more than I do now if I ate 64 million donuts. How much more? That's easy. 16 teracalories divided by 7.9 kilocalories of fat per kilogram of adipose tissue plus the extra skin needed to cover it, the extra blood supply and the added heart muscle required to pump it, the supporting muscle, connective tissue, and water, minus the energy required to eat and metabolize the calories in the donuts to fat. I would be a fat blob weighing around 6 billion kilograms, occupying about 5.4 million cubic meters of volume, which would precisely fill the entire Superdome in New Orleans. 16 teracalories is about 200 times as many calories as the average American male consumes during his entire lifetime. When I worked out this problem in 4th grade, I was just curious. I did the math. I was in math class, so I raised my hand and told my teacher. I thought she'd be happy that I solved such a complicated math problem. She wasn't. Do you see my problem? I can't stop thinking of things, and I don't really want to. It's my favorite thing to do. But no one wants to hear about most of the things I think about, things like the gaseous composition of farts. So why do I think these thoughts? What use are they if I can't share it with anyone? What if I write a story, and no one reads it? Then what was the point of all that writing? I think thoughts are like stories, and if I can't share them, it feels like a real waste of energy to even have them, but I do have them, lots of them. My therapist says the weird way I think means I have autistic spectrum disorder. It's actually kinda cool because I can have a lot of fun with my brain. But sometimes it's not so cool. People don't really understand me, and I don't understand them either. They expect me to say things and express things according to the set of rules that everybody else seems to know, so no one has bothered to write them down for the benefit of those of us who don't. I think a lot, all the time, about lots of things at once. My thoughts never switch off. Sometimes I figure something out while I'm at school, and I'll say, do you realize that humans are more closely related to sea tulips than sea tulips are related to tulips? Nobody ever seems to share my excitement. People with autism are all different. My type of autism makes learning and understanding things easier for me than it is for most people, which leaves time for my favorite thing, thinking. You might be surprised how much that annoys my teachers. They tell me every day, many times each day, that I'm not paying attention. To be honest, I'm usually not, because what they say in class is boring to me, and I already know most of it. I have more important things to think about. I don't really have to pay attention to a teacher to remember what they say. You'd think my high test scores, which show my understanding of their subject, would make them happy, but it only seems to annoy them when I do well. I usually don't finish my homework. Apparently that means I'm not applying myself. Applying myself to what? School's like watching reruns of Sesame Street. I get it. A is for apple. B is for boy. C is for cat. D is for diencephalon. How much more can I apply myself when I already understand it? Why should I have to work 30 problems a day to show them I understand? And how does that show anybody anything other than the fact that I have the ability of a common rhesus monkey to complete repetitive tasks? I can't stop thinking, and I don't want to. I think about ordinary things, like what I want to be when I grow up. I think about crazy stuff, like why God would make something as ridiculous as giggly girls. I think about forbidden stuff, like, who does God worship? Is he an atheist? And why would God be so obsessed with having mere humans worship him? If I made a bunch of action figures, I could make them sit in a little church and worship me, but who cares? Would I love them? They're just action figures. Aren't we really God's action figures? The finite creations of an infinite being? He likes to play with us, send us on adventures, and form us into armies so we can kill each other. As flies to wanton boys are we to the gods. They kill us for their sport. That's what Shakespeare wrote about that. I think God would have the saddest, most boring, awful existence imaginable, a prisoner of his own creation. Think about it. You are the only one. You created everything, including all eternity, and you're stuck there. Who are you gonna text late at night when you're bored and tired but you don't want to go to bed? Who can possibly understand your troubles? Oh right. You don't have any troubles. You waved your almighty hand and made them go away. Every day is perfect and predictable. For all eternity. And no one understands you. You will never have a friend you can confide in because no one could possibly understand you. Sure, you could wave your almighty hand and make them understand, but then you're really just talking to yourself. You can never be surprised. You can never be truly loved by someone who knows you and understands you and has a choice in the matter. Reality for you is sameness everywhere and forever. It doesn't matter if the universe is completely full or completely empty. It's all the same, and everything is the same as nothing. It's infinite, eternal, boring sameness, and I think it would be very lonely. I also have thoughts about thinking. That's called metacognition. Yeah. There's a word for that. I wonder why there's such a thing as thinking. Computers don't think, at least I don't think they do, but they could be made to do most of the same things our brains do. So why do we bother having thoughts? What exactly is a thought? A simple computation? A collection of neural impulses moving through a slimy brain? That can be done with simple machinery. A thought is an experience. We can make machines that do things and learn things and calculate things and solve things autonomously, but we can't make them experience things. I think about cosmology. I read a book by a professor named Sean Carroll from Caltech, and he says that if something is possible, then it must exist. That's the only way that the equations for quantum mechanics can work. I've checked his math. He's right. All possibilities must exist at once because all quantum particles are entangled across the entire universe. Therefore, every state and position of every quantum particle must coexist, even if we don't observe it in this universe. A quantum particle coexisting in more than one place or state is called superposition, though it exists in only one place and state at a time in this universe. That means there must be a huge number of universes, one for each combination of possibilities that don't exist in this universe. Professor Carroll calls it the many-world solution to Schrödinger's equation. He didn't make it up, but he argues in support of it. It seems things can exist in other universes, but does that mean they are real? Or do things have to exist in this universe to be real? How can we answer that question when we don't know what it means for something to be real? In order to solve Schrödinger's equation, we have to use numbers that aren't real. We call them imaginary numbers. They are multiples of the square root of -1, but if you remember from your last math class, there is no square root of a negative number. Any number, positive or negative, makes a positive product when multiplied by itself. The square root of -1 doesn't exist, but we couldn't solve quantum equations without using that imaginary number, which mathematicians have called I. That stands for imaginary. Are you still with me? Do you see my problem? I can't stop thinking, but when I try to share my thoughts, as you have just experienced, people usually get lost, or they don't care, or they get annoyed, or they think about other things. Sometimes they think, this kid is incredibly annoying, or this kid needs a hobby. But I already have a hobby. I think. Thinking is so fascinating. But this universe of thoughts is all stuck inside, and that makes me feel sad and frustrated. I think of escaping reality. I imagine sitting atop a massive rocket with engines so powerful that when they ignite, I feel my ears stretching to the back of my head as heavy metal music blasts through the sound system. I can hardly breathe, but that's okay. I scream in happiness. In 3 seconds I am past the moon, passing through light speed a second later. I can do that in my imagination. The universe soon lights up ahead of me as the cosmic microwave background is Doppler shifted into visible light. In 3 minutes I pass Barnard's star. In 3 hours I pass the Andromeda galaxy, and the entire universe appears to be a ring in front of me, blue and purple lined with X-rays toward the inside and red around the outside. In 3 days I am out exploring the multiverse, the array of possibilities that never happen in our own universe. In one of these nearly countless alternate universes, I discover an alternate Earth. I check in on my alternate home planet and find my alternate self on the athletic field at the middle school, happily playing soccer for his school's team. My alternate self is not autistic, and he's wearing the team captain's armband and the number 10 on his jersey. He kicks a penalty. My alternate parents cheer along with a few other parents. It looks like a nice life for him, but I know too much to be truly happy on that world, in that life. I can defy relativity in my imaginary spaceship, but I cannot make myself ignorant. Here's something to think about. A passing thought triggers millions of quantum events in the physical world. Professor Carroll says each quantum event requires at least 2 complete universes to exist, one in which that event happened, and one in which it didn't. Imagine the millions of universes I just created by writing that sentence. Being the god of all these universes does not give me joy. It feels terribly lonely.